So let's start with a question. Why we are doing table topic session?
For fun.
For fun, yes, that's good. But otherwise?
Are you speaking? Impromptu, no, improve improvisational speed. Without preparation, but interest. Yeah.
Helps us to think fast and to generate ideas in an organized manner.
Helps us.
Good. So we are doing table topic session fundamentally for 3 reasons. One is practice impromptu speeches, and this is a mock exercise for real life, because in real life you will face a lot of opportunities for impromptu speeches. But second, why we are doing this is trial Toastmaster experience for guests. When we have guests, we typically invite them to try on table topic session, and this is quite important element of this session. Last but not least, yes, this is fun on the bun. This is funny stuff, and typically it's re-energized meeting after breaks, after evaluations, after all the speeches. Keep in mind that it's quite good to link your table topic session with the theme of the meeting, because you could add additional layer of exploration of the topic, which was brought by the Toastmaster team. When you think about uses of impromptu speech, it's quite many, and I listed just a couple of them. One and very clear thing is a job interview. Now more and more companies start asking you competency-based question. Last time you faced such and such situation, how did you behave? And you have to be ready. Sometimes you have to survive a tough conversation. That could be a good thing for dating, to do impromptu, but it also could be a part of your identity. And when I was preparing for this session, I ran across an interview by Ricky Gervais. He was talking, that's quite an old interview, and there is a link and QR code for this interview on YouTube. He was talking about his life and what he's doing, and I pick up 2 things. One thing he told, look, I don't tell jokes. I don't crack gigs. I tell stories. And I think this is quite important, because when we are talking about table topic session, we encourage people to deliver a speech which should have introduction, body, and conclusion. That's why we have limit for impromptu speeches. It's not just one-liner. This is between 1 and 2 minutes. And second thing, he was telling about his family, how they made jokes on his mother's funerals, and how his brother made jokes of police. And he thought, okay, why his brother said it to police? Well, because he was in this improvisation mode. And I think this is quite important part of our table topic session, to be ready for this improvisation, to play around. And this is quite safe playground for us. What you're doing as a table topic master, you basically invite people to respond to various prompts. And the table topic session offer you a lot of different tools, how you do these prompts. I will focus just on 4. One is a question or story. Second is photo prompt. Third is what if, and fourth is story cubes. But you could invent more things. One thing I would like to ask you is to be provocative. When you are provocative, the session could be fun. Okay, so let's go. First is a question or reflect on some story. This is quite easy to prepare, and respond to this could be easy or advanced. What you should consider is open versus closed question. When you ask something very broad, for instance, how's life? At some contest, the question was, what is love? This is quite tricky thing, because on one hand, this is very open question. On the other hand, it's allow you to go into different avenues of exploration. But third, it could be very hard to answer these very open questions. Sometimes you could tell a story and you could ask to reflect on it. One thing to keep in mind is to check your questions for understandability. For instance, that's one of the things which I brought, and it didn't really work well because it was a joke. Outside of the dog, a book is a man's best friend. Inside of the dog, it's too dark to read. This is not easy to understand. This is funny, but this is a little bit advanced. So think through what you are bringing. It should be not very easy, but it should be not very hard. Second idea is a photo prompt. You show photo or some object to people, and you ask people to reflect on it. That could be very easy linked to the theme of the meeting. And question prompt is also quite easy to link to the theme of the meeting. That's why it's quite good. It's easy to prepare for this photo prompt session, especially if you keep a library of photos. I have a library of photos for my photos and pictures for myself. Some of them are quite strange, some of them are conceptual, but sometimes it takes more time to select these things if you would like to link to theme of the meeting. Response is more advanced story because on one hand, what you would like to do, you would like to trigger some stories. Second, what you get, it's variation of reflections. And you could also quite easily bring educational effects. Let me show you a couple of things. So this is one example. This is kind of reflect on this story. It's funny, and you could explore this story in very different lines. You could say, okay, we send tigers to the moon because tigers are great, something like that. But you could also explore it in a different way. But this is funny and could bring some funny stories. Next, this is a thing which I use to sell this thing. Do you know what is this?
No idea.
No idea. Yeah, and when I showed it to people, they try to guess what is this. So they try to, one very popular option was, this is a massage thing. So you stamp people on the back. Somebody told this is a hairbrush, but it's not. This is a special stamp to make a stamp on the bread in Central Asia. They have this very flat bread, lepeshka, and they make a stamp in the middle. It's kind of a stamp of quality from the producer, right? So it's quite funny how people try to make sense of this thing, or you could even ask people to sell it to you. So that's quite funny. That's a little bit different thing. That's actually be used in research on radicalization. So when we showed this post, this is a cover page of Vogue magazine. So when we showed this to two groups of people, one group of people start saying, "Oh, this is public health issue. Why she's smoking? It's harmful for health, la la la." But some other group of people start saying, "No, this is kind of sin. Women should not go uncovered. They should not smoke, and so on and so forth." So this is quite good technique when you would like to explore stories from people. The stories people brought to general prompt could be very, very telling about people, not about this general prompt. Last but not least, you sometimes could make very strong educational effect out of this. Again, do you know what is this?
No idea.
Well, this is basically how apocalypses will look like. This is a nuclear test, and each line is warhead entering the atmosphere. So and then the end of the world will look like this. And this could be done to shake audience. You could show this picture. It's really an aesthetic picture, right? It's in the same color. It's very blue. And then you bring this story. So think about this. The photo prompt is really, really powerful thing. I like it very much. Another thing is what if prompt. What you do, you take some premise and say, okay, what if it works differently? And it requires very advanced preparation, I should say, and responding also could be not that easy, but it could bring some quite interesting stories and scenarios. And you could quite easily link it to the theme of the meeting. These two things are coming from, I think the last time I've been tabletop master of the evening, and we had a topic of ancient Egypt. So one of the gods, and most of the gods in ancient Egypt, they are human beings with the heads of animals. And my question was, okay, what if we have an animal with a head of person, right? How this god would look like, what he or she will be doing. So this is a little bit tricky, and this requires some preparation for speaker. But this is kind of advanced thing and could be quite useful, especially if you are preparing for job interviews, because that's a question you will be asked. Next time, what you will be doing differently. Tell about your biggest failure last time and what would you do differently. So this what if exploration is quite advanced, but it could be quite useful. Last but not least thing is a story cubes. Preparation is very easy. You basically roll different cubes with different figures, and that could be physical cubes, and I did electronic cubes for myself online, but you could make in PowerPoint these different cubes and show it to people. And you ask people to simply tell a story. Usually you have one cube for the hero, and that could you do as a kind of advanced technique. You could fix the hero and then roll just cubes around about place and action. So in this case, you see we have a ghost, we have a castle, and we have an action of selfie taking. And you could tell a story out of this. Again, this is a little bit more advanced and hard technique because you have to tell a story, but it could be really, really fun. So that's 4 techniques. And regardless of this, you should volunteer speakers. When you volunteer speakers, ideally you should keep a sequence. Typically in our club, we have first some experienced club members speaking to show how it works. Then we invite guests if we have many. The reason why we invite guests is to give an experience. So one thing is to tell and see, but another quite experience when you participate in this. And last, you could invite some club member. You could volunteer. You could ask people to volunteer. Sometimes some people need to be volunteered. This is you don't spend too much time on this. If you don't see people volunteering, just put fingers somebody. And don't forget online audience. Sometimes we tend to forget about this. We have a grace period to think, which is optional and better to avoid. In life, you never have this grace period. But if people really need to think around, you could give this period. But I would suggest that stable topic evaluators bring this quick start in evaluation and say something like, oh, it's very good to start speaking as you got the question, and you could use this or that technique to buy yourself a time. Last but not least, checklist. So how you do this? Before the meeting, you check the topic with Toastmaster of the evening and prepare something like something you like in line of the topic of the meeting. And you prepare prompts. I suggest you to have 1, 2, maybe 3 additional prompts in case you have more time and you have more people who would like to participate. During the session, first you remind why we have table topic session. And you could speak something like 30 seconds why it's important. Second, you have to explain the rules. You have to speak on the spot. You have between 1 and 2 minutes. Then you run session, which I already discussed, and then you pass the floor to Toastmaster of the evening. Quite important thing is what you do after. After you get general evaluator feedback. And keep in mind that table topic evaluator doesn't evaluate table topic master. This is a role of general evaluator to evaluate table topic session. And when you get this feedback, reflect on it and be next time better. I stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.